Hi, this is Hannah Aaron with EdTech Times, and today I am speaking with...
Alex Rappaport from Flocabulary.
So tell me a little bit about Flocabulary and what you're doing to shake up education.
Sure. So Flocabulary is a supplemental digital curriculum, and we are best known for creating educational rap videos. Anyone who remembers Schoolhouse Rock will sort of get what we're trying to do from a music standpoint.
Yeah, Conjunction Junction.
You would be amazed at how many people know Conjunction Junction in 2017. But so we take, in sort of that same mold, we take the academic standards and we set them to music, and then behind those videos we build in all kinds of rigorous instructional tools like activities, quizzes, formative assessments, more and more student creativity tools where kids are writing their own songs and generating their own content. So really for us, the educational video is sort of a springboard into deeper learning. But at this point we have more than 800 educational videos across the academic curriculum for grades K through 12. And again, really the idea is helping teachers bring the standards-based curriculum to life, helping kids get engaged. To be honest, a big part of what we do is trying to bring joy to the classroom, like make kids smile. It's not a crime.
Which is not a bad thing at all. I think that a lot of people think that to do that would be uneducational or unprofessional somehow. But in reality, it's what helps students remember things. It's what helps them, learn more in their own time.
I think that's right. And, emotional engagement is a huge part of learning and long-term retention. And so the idea that a student is in a positive emotional state when they're learning, I think really in any time, but especially in this climate, in this social climate that we're living, I think focusing on social emotional learning through the curriculum, how are kids feeling as they learn, is really important. And I think music is one of these fundamental human, something that resonates fundamentally with all human beings, and really just moves people and animates people and can really transform a classroom in every way, from how kids are behaving and attendance goes up when our program is being used, and classroom management changes, and retention of content. So we're really trying to be of service to teachers who are differentiating and trying to find ways to supplement the core curriculum in ways that will reach all learners, and for us that really means traditionally students who have struggled with learning, whether that's ELLs or students who have diagnosed learning disabilities, or just any kid who's a little bit bored with what's going on in class.
Yeah, definitely. So what you're doing, I would like to say it's a no-brainer, but of course it never happens. But a lot of teachers have been trying to implement certain elements of what you're doing into their classrooms. For example, there was a teacher who wrote a song called "Welcome to the 8th grade," or 4th grade, fourth grade this year. Things like that. But what inspired you to get started in this venture?
Yeah, so for us, I started it with a friend, another co-founder, all the way back in 2004. So we're ancient in EdTech land. But
wow.
Yeah, no, we go back.
I don't even know if EdTech was a phrase then.
I don't think it was. We actually started before the first ever incubator. Like, this was like the Wild West between the first .com and the bubble. So, or the second wave. So yeah, the original idea is. It is so easy to memorize song lyrics, and particularly rap lyrics. Like, I'm a child of the 80s. The first cassette I ever had was Run DMC, Raising Hell. And I had, by the time I was in high school or college, dozens, maybe hundreds of rap songs memorized. I mean, I remember I was in my hotel yesterday rapping a song from 1993 that I haven't listened to in, 10 years. And it's just like...
What song was it?
It was Scenario by A Tribe Called Quest, which I won't perform right now.
Thank you. We have to keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, that's a very clean song, for the most part. But no. So the idea was it's so easy to memorize rap lyrics and so fun to sort of engage with song lyrics, and so hard to memorize the definition of obsequious on a flashcard. And we actually started, before we went K-12 and all subjects, we started it in SAT prep, because the pain point was we had just come out of college and taking the SAT, and I was actually studying for the GRE on these flashcards trying to cram vocab words into my head, when I realized that there are better ways to do this. So my co-founder Blake actually had thought of this idea in high school and basically said, wouldn't it be great if someone made a rap album with SAT words in it? And
you said, let's do that right now.
I said that someone should be us. I mean, he had mentioned that idea to a lot of people, and most people are just like nodding and smiling, like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But it resonated with me instantly as this unbelievable combination of music and education, and particularly, the mnemonic power of rhyme that we always use as humans to teach things. Like when we have little kids, how do we teach them? Well, it's through songs and rhymes and chants. And then all of a sudden, when they get to kindergarten or first grade,
we take away the fun from learning.
Yeah, the music disappears. Why? Our brains evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to be able to capture metric information, right? We had an oral tradition that was often based on song. And then we've just sort of, from the oral traditions of Africa to the, Homeric poets in Greece, troubadours, preschool teachers, Mr. Rogers, it's all about rhyme, right?
Yeah, entire histories were shared by rhyme.
Exactly. That oral tradition was how information was passed down. And I think we've lost that in the way we learn, but our brains haven't lost that power. So you take that mnemonic power of rhyme and you combine it with the cultural power of hip-hop and the popularity of hip-hop. And what you get is this incredibly powerful instructional strategy mixed with this culturally responsive way of teaching. And that has been the secret to our success, is really having a great respect for pedagogy, having a great respect for hip-hop music and hip-hop culture, and existing right in between those two worlds. I used to say we're the combination of Jay-Z and Isabel Beck, which is like it's the nerdiest joke.
I can imagine a Photoshop of that.
Yeah, I think I tried that. I had a slide with their faces once, and it's
That's fantastic.
The joke is so nerdy that probably nobody really even gets it. But yeah, so we've always been very focused on again the power of music and what music can do in the classroom. And I think classroom teachers really get immediately what we're trying to do, because they recognize that meaningful learning doesn't happen without authentic student engagement.
That is so true. So what are you working on right now? I know you've kind of had this system put together since 2004, but what are you working right now to keep your content fresh, your product fresh, what you're doing moving forward?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have more than 800 videos currently on the platform. We make about 3 or 4 new videos every week, so we're producing a lot of new content.
What kind of team do you have?
We have a 50-person team.
Okay, so that would put out a lot of videos.
Yeah, and that team is broken up, into sales and marketing people, creative, content team, engineers, the whole thing. But
right.
So right now, the content that we're really putting forward is a collection of resources for Black History Month. And we feel it's especially important to teach that content, not only in February, but all throughout the year. But right now, especially, we've done a lot of biographies of figures from Black history and stories and covering events. And so that's some content that we're really proud of. And not just the videos, but some of the activities that go along with them, like writing a journal entry from the perspective of Ruby Bridges. Is like a 5th grade lesson plan that we have on our site. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, so it's things like that we can do when we bring students to this level of engagement through the music. Then the students want to keep going, and so we have a lot of activities that are getting at kind of depth of knowledge and critical thinking beyond the video. But the other thing that we're working on is, a video only does so much. It's at the end of the day, it's passive learning. And so over the summer, we launched a new feature called Lyric Lab that basically takes all of the content, the key terms and vocabulary words from the video that has just been watched, and puts them into an interface where kids can write their own songs. And there's a rhyme generator, there's a dictionary, there's a library of beats, like instrumental beats that they can write over. And so for us, the Lyric Lab is both, Bloom's taxonomy, generative processing, but also it's student voice. And bringing the perspective of the student into the curriculum. And we have seen amazing results coming out of, kind of giving students the mic, so to speak. Just remarkable.
And that's something that students might want to do in their own spare time. Like I remember when I was a kid, we used to play, I don't even remember what it is, but it was Mario, and we created music. And I remember we created a song called Mushroom Beats, and that's just something that kids would want to play around with in their own free time, but it's really a great tool for learning.
I mean, two things about that. Number one, you remember mushroom beats, right? The point is,
I'll never forget mushroom beats.
it's the things you do when you're engaged like that when you're creative, that you never forget. These silly things you do on the weekend, right? And so what we realized is that kids are naturally making little videos on the weekend. They're writing songs. They're making like fantasy games and lands or whatever.
And now that they have access to so many tools, it's even more common than it was before.
Exactly, and yet we're not seeing that in the classroom. Right, I think one way that ed tech has failed is basically not providing enough opportunity for student creativity. Ed tech, in some cases, is a digital facsimile of a print experience. You click the next button, you fill in this little bubble on the screen. You know, maybe you're typing into a box or a form instead of writing on a paper. But like, is that the best use of technology? So we're trying to actually build tools, use technology to foster student creativity, but also use technology to take the learning offline. Like once these songs are written in Lyric Lab, kids are performing them, and they're commenting on each other's work and they're clapping for each other. And talk about social emotional learning. I mean, that climate and culture of the classroom where kids are sharing their voices and their work and the other students are supporting them and clapping for them, to me, that's transforming the learning model. And I will guarantee you the student who writes a song about Ruby Bridges needs to do more synthesizing and generating than if she were just taking a multiple choice summative assessment. So my dream is that writing a rap song about Ruby Bridges could actually be considered some kind of creative assessment down the road.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I don't know how you grade it. I don't know how it gets standardized. So we have a lot of work to do there. But.
Can you imagine someone's civics class final being a YouTube viral video?
I would like to imagine that. Yeah.
That's cool. So we've already covered your product and the future and what you're working on now. Tell me a little bit about how you think this could change the face of education. We've addressed it a little bit, but overall, what do you think the broad impact will be of your company and what you've done with education? Yeah,
so I think our biggest impact does come through that initial student engagement. And we know that a motivated student is a more successful student.
And do you have data to back that up?
Well, we have data that shows long-term vocabulary retention. We have data that shows increases on state reading tests. But the data that also tells that story is qualitative feedback from teachers and from students, right? And we hear from teachers that students who use our program are more engaged in other classes and throughout the school building. And I think that's partially accessibility and empowerment, the realization that they can learn and that that there's a teaching tool that is thinking about cultural relevancy and culturally responsive teaching through software, which is still pretty rare. Yeah. I think there's an impact in terms of feeling connected to the curriculum, of learning in an accessible and fun format, and that engagement is primarily where we're changing the game. I also think through Lyric Lab and the idea of student voice, we're really seeing some different content being covered and different cultural perspectives. Like we recently partnered with Atlanta Public Schools on a citywide writing initiative. And the challenge was pick a figure from history and write a song about it, a song about that person. And it was for grades 1 through 12. So the whole gamut.
So huge range of different topics.
Huge range. We saw some of the figures were George Washington Carver, Michelle Obama, and then a 9th grader named Asmara wrote about Trayvon Martin. And it was some of the most powerful writing and a powerful performance of spoken word. And I was just thinking, like, how would a textbook cover Trayvon Martin? How will a textbook cover Trayvon Martin, right? Like, what will the bias be there?
Depends on what kind of historians care about facts in the future.
Well, we know how the textbook industry has been historically governed in this country, and how sort of trying to be something for everyone, try to run the middle, and even maybe a little bit on the conservative end of especially science and social studies. And so you have to ask yourself, as the student population is changing and getting more diverse, and the textbook industry is still kind of stuck in this publishing model of being conservative for certain states and whatnot, you have to ask yourself, like, how would content be presented? And from my perspective, we think we have this great, balanced factual view, but even our bias is somewhere in this. And I think the way to cut through the bias is to actually go to the students and allow them to have a voice in it too. And this young woman's take on history, if you can call Trayvon Martin history, which, you know, it happened in the past, and it will be soon enough, and it informed, like all important history, it had cause and effect and informed the way our society is now. And I think the fact that she tackled that topic, the fact that she spoke honestly and truthfully from a cultural perspective that we don't hear much, is actually very transformative. And it all starts with this little software interface, but that doesn't matter. Like, forget about the product, you know, forget about the software. What is this technology doing outside of a computer that is changing the classroom? And that's where I want to be in that moment, you know?
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, I would ask you more questions because every answer you have is so thorough and well thought out. But I think that's it. But thank you for speaking with us. It's great to hear about Flocabulary and kind of your mission, your desire to change students' lives and education.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Alex.